Adiahama. I will hold your hands when I say this, right? Let me even first read your comments. He said her pastor is just wrong. First off, that's financial abuse from the husband, and she shouldn't be with a man like that. If she knew God for herself, she could have prayed and asked God for guidance. This lady in question knows God for herself. She knew God for herself. Now, back to the conversation. The entirety of that video was not even to pinpoint the issue of the woman. It was just to let women know that the whole idea of submission, the church picks and chooses when to use it. So it was not even about the woman to begin with. Now, but I knew somebody was just going to come and drag the issue here. One thing with religion is that religion lacks accountability, and religion has answers to everything. There is nothing that they just want to be like, oh, I just don't have the answer to it, and that's it. They always want to have an answer to everything. So what that does is it takes accountability away from the church, and then always the victim has to take the blame. Always. They will just, so whenever they are telling a story of somebody, they are looking for where, when and where to just, they are just looking for mistake on the part of the victim so that they can pin the entire uh issue on that particular mistake. So it doesn't even matter whatever happens, as long as they can pick one thing to say the victim was actually wrong, that would be the reason why that happened. And that is something that religion does. So it doesn't matter if they are talking about a woman or with whatever situation. 5 years ago, I lost my mother to cancer, and she was terminally ill, and we're looking for solutions all around. Anyway, a lot of pastors were praying for her. So when she died, one of the pastors that were praying for her told us that the reason she died is because when the arrow entered, when they shot the arrow at her, spiritual arrow, that we didn't detect it on time to uproot the arrow. That was why it became that bad. If we had detected the arrow, if she was spiritually sensitive, or we were spiritually sensitive and detected the arrow on time, we would have been able to avert it before it became cancer or anything like that. That, by the way. Now, let me hold your hands when I say this. You can marry somebody who is God's will for you and still get abused, both financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and any form of abuse. A person's relationship with God has nothing or very little to do with the relationship that they have with you. And human beings cannot abuse God because they cannot reach God. Okay? But you, on the other hand, is a woman. Men have systemic power over you. They also have physical power over most women, right? For that reason, it does not, a man being spiritual does not avert his entire experiences, and it does not take away his socialization. A man being born again or being the will of God for you or whatever does not take away the man's socialization. It does not change the man's biology, and it does not change anything, honestly. So whatever God finds to be a sin, that is what maybe that man would say he would not do. But let me tell you that scripturally, there is no part of the Bible that actually stands against a man abusing his wife. Maybe because a man is born again, he may not abuse you physically, but that does not mean he will not abuse you financially, spiritually, or emotionally. Even legally, right now, there's hardly a way to prove that a man abused you emotionally. So you can put, and I'm just saying this, I know that you're still going to argue, you will not listen, right? But to any woman here who you are religious, just know that whatever you think you heard from God, that this man is the one for you, it does not mean that man will not does not have the tendencies of abusing you. And that is the reason why we say, if it gets abusive, leave. If it gets abusive, leave. Right? I personally do not believe that God chooses spouse for people, but you can choose to believe whatever you want to believe. I respect your opinion or your belief or whatever. You have a right to whatever you believe. Mind you, your first form of abuse is even biblical, which says you should be submissive to a man. That in itself is abuse. And I'm going to get a lot of hate or backlash, or you yourself will reject it because you believe the Bible said you should submit to a person and you don't think it is abuse. That's totally fine. But then, that is abusive. In my own, not just my opinion, the truth is it is abusive. Now, I know that even in this video that I have made explaining all these things, and the focus of this video is not even about my mother or myself, but the fact that I shared this story, there will be a Christian somewhere who would talk about that my mother's issue and pin it and say, I am resentful of the church because of what happened to my mother and I need to heal. I know that there will be one foolish person that would want to say that. And I know the person would definitely not even watch this video to this point. But anyway, just to put that out there, that I know that there will be somebody who will listen to this entire video, and because the church lacks accountability, religion lacks accountability, and they also try to find what is wrong with people. They are always in diagnosing mood. And sometimes women tend to do that as well. Whenever you're saying something, instead of women to listen to it, when you share people's story, instead of them to listen to it and learn and just know that this is a possibility, they want to diagnose the woman and pick something that they believe that she did wrong that they will not do. So that is why women believe that a woman who was abused must have done something wrong and it can never be them. I'm telling you, you will do all your work to make sure you marry a born-again man. You will still be disappointed as long as it is a man that you're eventually going to marry. Marry that born-again man, you will still be disappointed. You will be disappointed. And that is what happened to a lot of your mommy Jews that you see that eventually come out to say, when they are preaching, sometimes they will tell you that, oh, that's how men are wired. Then they will give you their life experience and tell you that they are doing kingdom marriage. And then they will tell you that when I married my husband, he did this, he did that. And then they will tell you, oh, men this, men that. You can still be abused even when you are married to who you quote unquote a godly man, quote unquote God's will for you, or you listen to God, or you did. There is no evidence that you actually heard God. Anybody even telling you that they heard God, there is nothing that actually proves that they heard anything to begin with. That's by the way. I hope this helps you, honestly.